She couldn't believe her eyes. The computer screen displayed footage she had never seen before, even after years of using the security system. The images were blurry, with dim lighting. But there was a person, a familiar face, walking into her house. The strange thing was, this person had disappeared 3 months ago. Laura stood frozen, her hand still moving the mouse over the screen. She couldn't understand how the man who had disappeared, the one she loved, the one who was no longer in this world, could appear in her house. Her eyes didn't leave the screen as a chill began to settle over the room. "It's impossible. I saw him die," Laura whispered, her voice trembling. She clearly remembered that night when they found him by the riverbank. His cold, lifeless body. How could this be explained? She felt the air in the room growing suffocating, and she couldn't tear her eyes away from the screen, as if something terrible would happen if she did. Just a week ago, she had tried to continue her life, though the pain still lingered in her heart. But today, an odd occurrence had surfaced, rekindling the fear she had buried deep. Laura quickly opened all the videos from that day to look for more details. But the footage from the camera only showed a clear image at that exact moment, when the man appeared and walked into her house. She wondered if this could be a mistake from the system, some sort of technical error. But the longer she stared, the less she could explain it. Then a wave of cold ran through her body as she realized that the camera hadn't just captured the missing person's image, but strange events she had never thought possible. Laura couldn't stop thinking about what she had seen on the screen. She tried to push away the terrifying thoughts, but everything kept swirling in her mind. The man, the one she loved and lost 3 months ago, now appeared here, in her house. Laura felt a creeping unease rising in her chest, not just from fear, but from the secrets she couldn't explain. She quickly checked the security camera history, trying to find any signs that this was just a mistake, but the image on the screen remained clear. The man walked into the house as though nothing had happened, and those images didn't change. When Laura replayed all the videos, she discovered that the appearance of this man only showed up in one video, at 2 a.m. the previous night. The thoughts about the video kept swirling in Laura's mind. She remembered the last days before the man disappeared. They had argued. He left and never returned. Since then, the police had found no trace of him, and eventually, they declared that he was missing without a clue. But now, his image appeared in her house. How could that be? She couldn't stop thinking about it. Laura began to doubt whether someone had deliberately created a fake video, or if there was another explanation for what she had seen. But then she remembered one important thing. The security system was very secure and couldn't be hacked. If there was a video, it had to be real. In the midst of her panic, she decided to confront the truth. Laura decided to dig deeper. She began calling security system repair companies, asking them to check all the equipment, hoping to find some technical error. But deep down, Laura couldn't deny one thing. A strange event was happening, and she didn't know if she could deal with it. Laura began to feel like she was trapped in an unending nightmare. Every time she rewatched the video, the fear would rise again. The man in the video was Alex, the one she loved, who had been missing for 3 months. But why was he in her house? Why was he there now? She decided she couldn't sit idly by and do nothing. Laura began contacting security system experts, hoping they could offer a reasonable explanation. But what they said only made her more confused. Are you sure the system isn't malfunctioning? These footage could have been edited or even fabricated. This explanation left Laura even more confused. She couldn't accept that her security cameras could have been hacked or faked. The system had been installed by a reputable company and had never failed before. Moreover, Alex couldn't have just appeared like that. She decided she had to investigate what really happened that night. When Laura decided to leave the house and search for answers outside, she couldn't stop thinking about the strange footage. She went to a local cafe where she and Alex used to meet. She needed to talk to people who might know something about Alex, about what he had been doing in the days leading up to his disappearance. At the cafe, she met an old friend of Alex's, someone she had never spoken to before. This person said that Alex had been acting very strangely in the weeks leading up to his disappearance. He talked about strange dreams, things I couldn't understand. He kept saying he felt like he was being watched, that someone was observing him. These words hit Laura like a punch to the gut. Could it be that in those strange dreams, Alex had seen things she couldn't understand? Could these dreams be connected to his appearance in the video? Laura couldn't help but think that something terrifying was going on, and she felt more trapped by it. Laura couldn't shake the feeling that there was a truth hidden, something too big and terrifying for her to fully grasp. Every day that passed, she grew more tired. But the strange footage of Alex haunted her more and more. Laura decided she had to do something to uncover the truth, no matter how horrific it might be. That night, Laura decided to go back to the old footage, searching for any signs that could explain Alex's strange appearance. She started reviewing the videos from before the day he disappeared, hoping for a new clue. But it only made her more confused. The footage seemed normal, nothing unusual. But as soon as she began watching the footage from that night, she noticed something strange. A shadowy figure was standing at her door at 1 a.m. A chill ran through Laura as she realized the shadowy figure wasn't anyone else but Alex. Unable to believe what she was seeing, she replayed the footage several times. But each time, nothing changed. Alex stood there, silent and still, but there were no signs of life. She couldn't understand. Was this an actual event or just an illusion? Despite this, a part of Laura couldn't accept the thought that she might be seeing an illusion. She decided she had to find a way to explain everything and couldn't ignore these strange events. Laura searched for more information about the dreams Alex had spoken of, about feeling watched. She asked his friends, but no one could give her a satisfactory explanation. One day, when Laura was nearly desperate, she ran into a stranger at the cafe who told her to meet a paranormal researcher. This person claimed that he could help her decipher what was happening. Phenomena like this are not uncommon. You may not understand it, but I can help you uncover the truth, he said to Laura, making her even more uneasy. Laura didn't know whether she should meet with the stranger. All she knew was that what was happening couldn't be explained logically, and the sense of danger kept creeping into her mind. However, in her most confused moments, A thought flashed in her head. If she could decode these phenomena, maybe she would find the answers to the questions that had tormented her for the past 3 months. Deciding to meet the stranger, Laura arranged to meet him at a small library on the outskirts of town. She arrived in the afternoon, when the air was fresh and the place was quiet. This library was unlike others. It was ancient, with shelves of dusty books, seemingly holding more secrets than knowledge. When Laura entered, the stranger was already there. He smiled lightly, but his eyes were full of understanding, as if he already knew all the answers before she even asked. The stranger introduced himself as Daniel, a researcher of paranormal phenomena. He told her that the strange events Laura was experiencing could be signs of something that science had yet to explain. "This is not random, Laura," he said to her. "The video you saw could be a sign of something special, something you haven't yet understood." No. Laura felt a strong curiosity, but also doubt. Daniel continued to explain that Alex might not be completely gone. He might have been pulled into another dimension, a place where the laws of this world no longer applied. He might be right here, in your house, but no longer visible as he once was. Daniel explained. Daniel's words felt like a light in the dark, but they also swept her into uncharted territory. Laura wasn't sure if she could believe what he was saying, but she felt that something bigger was at play. Could it be that Alex hasn't really gone far? Laura wondered to herself. Then Daniel handed her an ancient necklace. "This is a tool you will need," he said. "It will help you find the path to the truth." Laura held the necklace in her hand, a heavy feeling overwhelming her body. Though her rational side told her that everything could be an illusion or a joke, her heart urged her to search for the truth. She couldn't give up, couldn't let the pain continue to torment her. She sighed, tucked the necklace into her pocket, and decided to seek answers, no matter the unimaginable challenges ahead. When she returned to her house, everything seemed quiet. But inside her, there was a feeling that something was about to happen. She began to feel the walls staring back at her, as if the house held a secret she had yet to uncover. Even though she had lived here for years, Laura suddenly felt like it was an entirely unfamiliar place. Laura decided to try using the necklace Daniel had given her. According to what Daniel said, the necklace could help her access another world, a world where Alex might be. She took the necklace out, put it around her neck, and for a moment, she felt a cold wind brush through her body. Her vision began to blur, and she felt as though she was falling into a strange place. That sensation lasted for a few seconds, then everything returned to normal. However, when she opened her eyes, a strange sight appeared before her. The walls of the house seemed to have changed, not as they once were. The objects in the room, the familiar furniture, now appeared strange, as if they were in another dimension. Laura panicked. But what shocked her most was the image of Alex, standing there, smiling at her. "Alex," Laura whispered, her voice trembling. Alex didn't respond. He just stood there, his smile still on his face, as if he didn't want to scare her. She stepped closer, but with every step she took, the distance between them seemed to grow. Even though she got closer, Alex kept his distance strangely, as if he was purposely avoiding her. Laura felt as though she was standing at the threshold between two worlds. One world was her home, where she had lived for many years. The other world was where Alex was, a place where everything had changed, where time and space no longer followed normal rules. She knew that if she didn't act, she would lose the only chance to meet Alex again. She decided she had to do something. She reached out towards Alex, but as soon as she touched him, a blinding and dizzying sensation suddenly hit her. Everything around her began to shatter, and Laura felt herself being pulled into another space, a space with no end. The sensation was so intense, and she couldn't do anything to stop it. Laura tried to cling to what she knew, but the strong pull from that strange space disoriented her. When she opened her eyes, she realized she was no longer in the house. Everything had changed. She stood in the middle of a foggy forest, where there was no light, only dark trees stretching out like hands. Laura stood frozen in the foggy forest, unable to believe what she was experiencing. She tried to move, but her feet felt as though they were glued to the ground. Everything around her was strangely altered. The cold air, the towering trees reaching up like dark, skeletal arms, and the only sound was the wind blowing through the branches. Her eyes tried to adjust to the unfamiliar surroundings, but the image still didn't align with her reality. She took a deep breath, feeling the cold air rush across her skin. Despite the overwhelming sense of fear, part of her insisted that she must continue. "I can't give up," she whispered to herself. "I have to find the truth." She took one step, then another, guided by the sound of the wind and the increasing sensation that something was watching her. She couldn't explain it, but the feeling grew stronger. After walking for a while, Laura discovered a massive door, like an ancient gateway, surrounded by moss-covered stones. It was a door unlike anything she had seen in this world. She stared at it, a strange pull making it impossible for her to look away. She stepped closer, her hand touching the cold surface of the door, and a faint glow began to emerge from the cracks in the door. She couldn't resist the urge to open the door, even though anxiety still weighed heavily in her chest. She turned around, feeling like someone was watching from the darkness. But as she stepped closer, the light from the necklace seemed to glow even brighter, as if the necklace held some kind of power. Laura no longer had time to think. She reached up and grasped the door handle. As she turned the handle, the door slowly creaked open, and a cold gust of wind blew into her face. As the door opened wider, another space unfolded before her. This wasn't the forest she had walked through before. It was a vast, dark space, with only faint light from distant stars. Laura felt like she was stepping into another world, one where Alex might still be waiting. As the door opened, an entirely different space unfolded before Laura's eyes. She found herself standing in a vast room, with towering walls shrouded in darkness. Although there was no clear light, there were strange flickering points on the walls, like stars. The air was so cold that she could feel every breath she took, as if she were stepping into a world not meant for humans. She took a step forward, gradually feeling the presence of some strange force in this space. Suddenly, a voice echoed in her head, not through words, but as though someone was communicating with her through thoughts. "Welcome, Laura, you have found the path to the truth. She turned around, but saw no one. Only the whispers and the cold gusts of wind continued to blow. Laura took another step forward, and immediately, the image of Alex appeared before her, not in the real world, but as a blurry figure, as if he existed in another realm. "You've come." "Laura," Alex said, his voice not as clear as before, but vague as if coming from a distant place. "I'm still here, but I cannot be by your side." "Why is this happening?" Laura screamed, her emotions overwhelming her. "Why can't you be with me?" But Alex only smiled, his eyes sparkling with mystery. "There are things you cannot yet understand, Laura, but you will. One day." And then his image slowly faded away, leaving Laura standing alone in the darkness, the feeling of loss once again overtaking her heart. Laura stood there, staring at the spot where Alex had just faded away. She felt a sense of emptiness in her heart, but at the same time, something had shifted inside her. Alex's words still echoed in her mind. "You will know. One day." Laura didn't know if it was a promise or a warning, but one thing she knew for sure was that her journey wasn't over yet. She decided not to turn back, though the loss still lingered. Laura knew she had learned something crucial in this journey. She had faced her fears, uncovered secrets she never imagined. And now, she knew that she was no longer just a seeker of truth, but someone who understood that a story might never truly end, but only continue. Laura walked through the door once more, but this time, she saw no darkness, only light and a vast space ahead. She stepped outside, leaving behind all the strange things, the pain, and the loss. Her steps were firm, her heart filled with hope, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Her journey was still ongoing, but now, she knew she wouldn't be alone. Sophie had always felt that something was odd about the new house they had just moved into. She and her husband, Jack, had bought this house on the outskirts of Denver, Colorado. While the house was spacious and comfortable, Sophie couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She had searched the nooks and crannies of the house but found nothing. However, there was one thing she couldn't overlook: the security camera at the back door, which she had never seen before. She asked Jack about the camera, but he seemed uninterested and said it was just an old security device left behind by the previous owners. Sophie wasn't sure if he understood her concern, but she felt a compulsion to investigate it. One night, when Jack was fast asleep, Sophie decided to check the footage recorded by the camera. She never imagined what she would find. The first video was normal, just footage of the backyard. But when the video switched to one particular night, things took a strange turn. A shadowy figure appeared in the frame, its face indistinct, but Sophie recognized it as a man wearing a black cloak. What was odd was that the figure didn't move like an ordinary person. It glided across the yard without leaving any traces, almost like a ghost. Sophie was shocked, unable to believe what she was seeing. Sophie couldn't stop watching, even though she was terrified. She rewound the video and saw that the man had sneaked into the house through the back door. But what was even stranger was that when he entered, there was no sign that the door had been opened. The back door was still locked, but he seemed to pass through it as though it didn't exist. Sophie didn't know what to do. She knew she had to tell Jack, but would he believe her? Sophie decided she had to tell Jack the next morning, but she couldn't. Every time she looked at him, the image of the man in the video kept replaying in her mind. She couldn't let this continue, but how could she prove it to Jack? She decided to investigate further, no matter the danger. One night, as Sophie continued to watch the footage from the security camera, she discovered something even more bizarre. The footage from the previous day, when the strange man entered the house, showed not just him. There was another shadowy figure standing behind him. Another blurry figure, like a fog, trailing behind him. This sent chills down Sophie's spine. Who was this second figure? Sophie couldn't bear it any longer. She decided to go outside and see if anyone in the area had encountered any strange phenomena. She went to talk to the neighbors, but they all seemed vague and didn't understand what was going on. One elderly neighbor mentioned an old legend about the house, saying that it had once been a crossing point between worlds. This place is not an ordinary house, the elderly neighbor said. It holds things that you cannot understand. Don't try to look too deeply. If you do, you'll open doors that can't be closed. These words sent a shiver down Sophie's spine, but she knew she was getting closer to the truth. Sophie returned home with the warning echoing in her mind. She couldn't give up and was determined to uncover the truth. That night, when Jack was away on business, Sophie decided to open the back door and search the area around the house. She couldn't explain why, but some strange force compelled her to do it. As Sophie opened the door, a cold gust of wind blew into her face, and immediately, she felt a strange energy surround her. Her footsteps were light, but as soon as she stepped outside, a strange sight appeared before her. A large gate, surrounded by strange stones, emerged in the garden. She couldn't believe her eyes. But as she stepped closer, the gate opened. Sophie stood frozen before the massive gate, her heart full of fear and curiosity. The door opened by itself, as if inviting her inside. She took a deep breath, feeling the cold wind whisper through the stones, and stepped cautiously forward. As she passed through the gate, a new and unfamiliar sight unfolded before her. A vast, dark space unlike any place she had ever seen. Though the space before her was entirely different, Sophie felt something familiar in the air. She moved forward, and soon, she saw a figure standing in the distance. It was a man, wearing a black cloak, his face indistinguishable. She felt a strong presence from him, and all her anxiety surged within her. She walked closer, her steps feeling heavy as she moved toward the man. When she was near, the man slowly turned around, and for the first time, Sophie saw his face. It was the man from the video she had watched earlier. He smiled at her, but that smile held a coldness, as if he knew exactly what she was feeling. "Sophie, I have been waiting for you," the man said, his voice echoing in the space as though it came from all directions at once. "You are on the right path. However, there is one thing you need to understand. Not everything you see is the truth." Sophie was bewildered, unsure how to react, but she felt an undeniable urge to continue seeking answers. She took a deep breath, then decided to step further into the space. The man did not stop her. only stood there, watching every step she took. Sophie felt like something was waiting for her ahead, and she couldn't stop until she uncovered the truth. Sophie ventured deeper into the space, the surroundings becoming increasingly unfamiliar. Though everything remained blurry and mysterious, she felt another presence watching her, as if someone was observing her every step. She looked around, searching for a sign or a change in the space. But all she could see was endless darkness. Suddenly, in front of Sophie, another door appeared, light streaming from the crack in the door. This door was unlike the others. It seemed like an escape route. She couldn't believe her eyes, but she felt that this was her only chance to get out of this space. She hurried toward the door, but before she could touch the handle, a voice spoke from behind her. "Don't go." The man's voice echoed. "That door will take you to a place you cannot return from." Sophie turned around, but the man had vanished. She stood there, torn, unsure whether to go or stop. Sophie felt she was standing before an important choice, a decision that could change everything. She couldn't just stand there and hesitate. After a long moment of contemplation, she decided to open the door. "I have to know the truth," she told herself as she reached for the handle. The door slowly creaked open, and a blinding light filled the room. Sophie stepped in, immediately feeling like she was entering another world. Before her was a vast space filled with bright colors, starkly different from the darkness she had passed through. She felt relieved, but also deeply confused. She looked around and noticed vague images, her memories unfolding before her eyes. She saw scenes from her past, moments long gone, loved ones. Everything was hazy, like dreams. A voice echoed in the space. "Welcome to the real world," the voice said gently, but with power. Sophie turned around, but there was no one there. A silence enveloped her, and she realized she had crossed the boundary between two worlds. Sophie ventured further into the new space, her eyes wide with amazement at the strange sights around her. The air was fresh and light, but there was something distinctly different from everything she had known. She walked through lush green fields, clear streams, but her heart felt heavy, as if something was about to happen. She couldn't understand it, but she could feel an invisible presence, as though someone was watching her every move. Suddenly, Sophie felt a gust of wind, and before her, a massive door appeared, like a gateway to another world. She moved closer, but a voice echoed in her mind. "This door will take you to decisions that cannot be undone. Think carefully before you step through." Sophie did not stop, but her heart raced faster. She knew she couldn't turn back. Sophie placed her hand on the door handle, feeling a strange power emanating from the door. Though she felt a warning in her heart, she couldn't resist the urge to step through. The door opened, and a new space unfolded before her, resembling an old, abandoned city. The buildings were deserted, and the air felt strangely thick. Sophie stepped in, unsure of what she was searching for. Sophie felt a chill run down her spine as she stepped into the city. Though there was no one around, she had the distinct feeling that she was being watched. A flickering light passed through the space, and then a figure appeared. It was a man. but not the one she had encountered before. He had eyes that shone like stars, looking at Sophie with a face full of understanding and mystery. "Welcome to the forgotten world," the man said, his voice echoing in the stillness. "You will find answers here, but they will not be what you expect." Sophie looked at him, feeling an intense urge to continue exploring, even though she didn't know where the future would lead her. "Hey." The man smiled, but his eyes held no warmth. "Do you know?" "Sophie," he said, "there are no absolute truths here. What you are searching for is not something you will easily grasp." Sophie felt her heart grow heavy, but she refused to stop. She asked, "Then what am I searching for?" The man didn't respond immediately. Instead, he turned and walked toward an ancient building surrounded by overgrown trees. "Follow me," he commanded. Sophie followed, unable to take her eyes off him. They walked through old stone paths, and Sophie couldn't explain it. But she had the feeling she had been here a long time ago. When they reached the building, the man stopped and pointed at the large door. "Enter, and you will find what you need. But remember, once you step inside, there is no going back." Sophie looked at the large door, then back at the man. There was no hesitation left in her, and as though some invisible force was urging her, she stepped inside. Sophie stepped through the large door and immediately felt a shift in the atmosphere. The space around her grew dark and empty, like an endless corridor leading to secrets yet to be revealed. She couldn't see everything clearly, but she could feel an invisible presence, a force pulling her forward. With every step, her heart raced faster, for she knew she was getting closer to something very important. She walked alone down the long hallway, her footsteps echoing in the silent space. After a while, she found herself standing before a large wall, etched with strange symbols she had never seen before. A feeling of being drawn to those signs made Sophie move closer. She placed her hand on the cold wall and felt a surge of electricity course through her body. Suddenly, the wall began to part, revealing a dark chamber. The room was transparent, with no windows, just a single stone table in the center. On the table lay an old book, its cover worn and frayed with time. Sophie felt an overwhelming urge to open the book, and as she flipped to the first page, strange letters and drawings appeared, as if dancing before her eyes. The words seemed to be written from ancient tales, containing a power she couldn't yet comprehend. She continued reading, and with every page that turned, a part of the truth about this world and what she was experiencing slowly unfolded. Sophie realized that she was not just a part of this world, but had a mission, an important role she had yet to understand. She felt the power emanating from the book, and suddenly, a strange sense of peace filled her heart. Sophie set the book down and stood up, feeling a profound shift within herself. She understood that everything had changed forever. What she had once known was now just pieces of a larger picture, a picture she had to continue exploring. In this strange room, she felt that she was no longer just a seeker, but someone with a mission to uncover the secrets this world had hidden. The door behind her closed, and everything around her began to change. The strange walls, the unexplainable symbols began to fade away, and Sophie felt a powerful movement in the space. She realized that she had crossed a threshold, And from this moment on, there was no going back. She had entered a new world, one where there were no absolute truths, only questions and secrets yet to be uncovered. Sophie knew she would never return to a normal life again. She stepped out of the strange room with a newfound sense of self, a power she had never known before. She had discovered the truth of what she was searching for, but it was only the beginning. A new world was unfolding, and Sophie, now, was no longer the seeker, but the one who would lead others through the door of truth.